So the next move on Obamacare is President Trump's. Minutes after House Speaker Paul Ryan shelved that GOP replacement bill, the president repeated the claim that Obamacare is on the verge of collapse, went so far as to say that it will explode.
I've been saying for the last year and a half that the best thing we can do, politically speaking, is let Obamacare explode. It's imploding and soon will explode. And it's not going to be pretty. So the Democrats don't want to see that. So they're going to reach out when they're ready.
Brian Robinson, Republican strategist and former assistant chief of staff for Georgia Governor Nathan Deal, with us now. And Jason Johnson is back, politics editor at TheRoot.com and professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Brian, I want to get your reaction to what the president just said there. He said it's the best thing they could do, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who have Obamacare that don't feel too good about that statement.
Well, there are about 10 to 11 million people who are on Obamacare. And when we say that, we're talking about the exchanges, although that's only half of what Obamacare is. The other half is Medicaid expansion, which is something we need to come back to. But the people who are on that exchange are already very frustrated by what they're facing. They've got premiums going up in huge numbers every year, high deductibles that they simply cannot afford. And I don't know about you, but when I go to the doctor, I see signs at the front desk that say, do not take these insurances from the exchange. That's not access to health care. The president is right. The exchange is imploding. Providers are pulling out in huge numbers. It can't go on. And the people that this is aimed at helping can't afford what is offered to them. And on Medicaid, the other half of people who are covered by Obamacare are on this Medicaid expansion. Many states, close to 20, never expanded. And the bill that did not get voted on yesterday would penalize the Republican states, largely Republican states, that did not expand Medicaid. That's something that they're going to have to go back and fix. Republicans from those states have got to make sure that their interests are defended, because the Medicaid expansion allows some states to get billions more than others. And so there's a lot of pain. And that's why Donald Trump can't stand back for too much longer, because the damage of Obamacare continues. Okay,
and let's get to that, because Jason, article in the Washington Post, Bob Costa, talks about how he got this call from the president yesterday saying, hello, Bob, so we just pulled it. Can you imagine Bob Costa at that moment? But in this conversation, President Trump blamed the Democrats, saying they didn't get one vote, that Obamacare is going to explode, that he was a team player. And then he said this: I'll fix it as it explodes. They're going to come to ask for help. They're going to have to. Here's the good news. Health care is now totally the property of the Democrats. How confident are you, Jason, the Democrats will end up going to President Trump for help?
Well, they have no reason to. This is an important piece of context here. One, there are problems with the Affordable Care Act. Everybody knows that. There are also benefits. These exchanges have been problematic in a bunch of different states. You have some Republican states that are in trouble because they didn't want to expand one way or another. There are plenty of things that can be fixed. But from a political standpoint, and this is where President Trump is wrong, there are 435 members of Congress. There are only 192 members right now who were in office in 2010 when this got passed. So anyone who suffered political consequences from passing the original Affordable Care Act, they've already lost their jobs. They're not worried now. This idea that they're going to come begging to Donald Trump to get some assistance down the road is not going to happen. What is going to end up happening is that if the Republican Party attempts a boondoggle like this again and doesn't come up with a solution that both lowers costs and increases coverage, and that's what everybody wants, it will continue to be their fault. There's no way that President Trump, controlling all these branches of government, can blame Democrats for what is essentially a failure of Republicans to be prepared after 7 years.
All right, well, we know Hillary Clinton was tweeting yesterday talking about the victory for the 24 million people, as she said, at risk of losing their health insurance. And at the end, she said, the fight isn't over yet. We'll have to push back on future bad ideas. Brian, to his point, to Jason's point, they can't go about tax reform the same way they went about this. How do they do it?
Well, with tax reform, as was said earlier, it's easy to cut taxes. It's easy to get the 218 votes you need in the House there and to get it over to the Senate. It's much harder to do tax reform if there's going to be a loser. And that's what we're running into now. With repeal, no one seemed to worry about it before. We knew there would be no loser because Obama would veto it. Now we would own any potential plan that came out and the consequences of it, and we're going to be judged on what we're doing on health care and on taxes in the midterm elections. And so voters are not going to blame Democrats for what is happening in October of 2018. And that's how we need to approach this. Our voters have been promised health care reform. They've been promised tax cuts. They've been promised a dramatic reduction of the corporate tax, which would allow businesses to bring jobs and capital back onto our shores. We have to deliver that.
Okay. Jason, last word.
Well, here's the thing. That hasn't happened, right? What we've seen since President Trump got in office is a rise in hate crimes, Muslim bans, increasing the likelihood of cutting EPA support that you need in Republican, senatorial districts. He hasn't been bringing jobs back. That's what people wanted. And until the Republican Party actually fulfills the promises that they made during Campaign 18, Democrats have no reason to work with them. They can watch this circular firing squad and retake the House in 2018.
Brian Robinson, Jason Johnson, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Boy, the facial expressions during that segment were enough. I mean, if you watched it with the sound down, I think you understood what was going on. All right.